everybody. Welcome to my weekly live stream that I do usually on Fridays. Usually it's at 4 p.m. on Fridays, but I made a special exception today because I have an amazing guest who is, many hours ahead of us, I believe, in Europe. Where are you based, Claudia?
Yeah, I'm in Berlin, in Germany.
Berlin. Okay, I've been there. What a beautiful place. One
Yeah.
of my best friends lives in Hamburg, so I've been to Germany a couple of
Yeah.
times actually. So what I do in these live stream is I basically take on any sort of topic and bring in an expert where we talk about issues around business ownership, entrepreneurship, the brand building journey. I'm host of the 1% Brand Brilliance. That is my Substack channel. And I'd like to first start off by actually getting Claudia to introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself. So go ahead, Claudia.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I started now getting back to the habit of going live on Substack, so I'm happy to be here. Also happy to see people in the chat already joining things. I always love to have those Substack live sessions, very interactive. I think that's like the great way to interact with people on the internet that you otherwise don't see. But about me, I mean, I write 2 newsletters on Substack. I write Level Up with AI and then Wonder Wealth. And I started on Substack 2 years ago with Wonder Wealth. That was mostly really about my Substack journey, kind of my journey. I'm more like a classical entrepreneur with, I found a company, I've had VCs and investors. And 2 years ago, I said, hey, I really want to do my own thing and just do something for myself. And that's how I started writing and creating on Substack. And I started with Wonder Wealth, but then I started also Level Up with AI. Because that's my background. I have a background in AI actually, long before ChatGPT and Claude and all those things were out there. But I said, hey, I actually want to bring that more to the table. Now, as it's like a super hyped and trendy topic, it actually fits quite well. So yeah, that's why I'm here. That's what I write about.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And here's my introduction, guys. My name is Bobby Umar. I'm a 5-time TEDx speaker, a 2-time LinkedIn top voice, and Inc. magazine top 100 leadership speaker. For the last 25 years, I've done 1,000 keynotes and workshops across 4 continents. Originally focused on soft skill leadership, but then I became known as the networking expert. Then I became known as the personal branding expert. So I started building, courses and things like that. And then I became a digital marketing influencer. Started building on Twitter, got to 500,000 followers. Started building on LinkedIn, got to 50,000 followers there. Started building on Instagram to 40,000. And, and I also, help people land a TEDx talk. I help business owners grow, and I still do my keynotes. I talk about thought leadership, talk about digital authority and trust building and all that, and culture and community. I'm a connection guy. That's what I'm all about. But what I'll say is that, now I help a lot of business owners because, I've learned a lot, and I'm trying to help mentor them and help them grow. And that's what TLB Club is all about. And that's also what the 1% Brand Brilliance is all about. I've been a big, and because of that, technology, social media, AI, I learn avidly as much as I can to make sure that I'm at least riding the bicycle or the motorcycle versus just walking or sitting. And so I'm moving forward on that. And that's kind of what I do. So with that, I do this live stream every week. And the topic today is AI hacks for business owners. Why? Because I'm a business owner and many of you are business owners, and there are many AI hacks. But I thought and again, I see a lot of people in the audience. It's great, guys. Good to see you all. Put your questions in there or comments. Feel free to compliment, Claudia. She's really awesome. I think you should make sure you follow her and check out all her stuff. If my audience has seen that, make sure you follow Claudia, check out all her stuff. We like compliments. If you want to compliment, my that's a picture of New Zealand back there. That's cool. I'm cool with that. But I actually want to kind of get into the story. So, you said you've been doing AI for a long time. So, but maybe I would love to know the story of how you first started getting into it, and then maybe was there an epiphany where you're like, what? Oh man, I'm all in, and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, not so much. I mean, sorry to disappoint right away, but
it's okay.
There's not such a crazy story for me because, it was really part of my degree. So I have a master's degree in digital health. So actually, my background is healthcare, and I did a master's specifically on AI in healthcare. So, and that was around 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And I basically, it was part of it. I mean, back then there was no ChatGPT, there was no Claude. So what we've done is basically we worked with, I mean, machine learning models that came out. We worked with neural networks. Everything still kind of new for the end user. So we didn't build the models ourselves, but we used the models that were out there, and then we just worked with them and adapted them to the data that we had. So, for example, I worked with Mount Sinai together in New York. It's a big hospital for people who don't know, and they have a biobank, and we worked with electronic health records, so we had access to the anonymized patient data, and we had access to the genetic data in the biobank. And when it comes to healthcare and genes and so on, they are like trillions and billions of data points out there. And that's where AI is absolutely insane, right? Because it can do with data what humans just are incapable of doing. And so we worked a lot with training those models and tried to predict diseases that you wouldn't otherwise see. And that's my maybe a little bit more boring background story with AI, but that's how I got all into it.
But then let me kind of take you further back. I mean, how did you know you want to get into AI and study it? So maybe there's something there where you're like, you know what, I'm very interested in this. And tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew already back then that there's, so I don't know, like 10 years ago or so, I knew that I'm very entrepreneurial. I love to do new things. But I also knew that I want to do things with impact and that somehow have a meaning and make sense to me. And I was always very much on the edge, either to study medicine or to study economics. And so I said, okay, I want to study economics, but I do want to work in healthcare. And so that's what I've done all my life. So also my companies are in like health tech startups. And then when this master degree popped up, I thought like, hey, this is so mind blowing, like AI and just like honestly statistics in a big network model with a lot of data points is something that I think makes so much sense, because in human medicine, there's so many things that shouldn't be automated and that just should be, human to human interaction. But when it comes to data, I just think that and I knew already back then, it makes so much sense to use it. And yeah, and that's how I got into it pretty much.
Okay. And I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of the first moment or thing where we realize how an AI type thing is helpful to us, right? So, for example, if I go back to my early days, I look at systems, right? So one of the early systems in my life was the automated email message back, right? So you're going away for a vacation and you automate that. That's just a reply automate thing, right? But this is a long time ago. We're trying to we see that, and then then later on there's other ones where you start to get suggestions. Okay, that's interesting. How does that work? I remember the first time I set up my Calendly. It's like, okay, you know what? If I emailing and messing back and forth to just have a calendar event, but now here it is. You either go on a Doodle Drive or you book this link, and if you do the upfront investment to set it up, you're saving hours and hours of time afterwards. So So I'm trying to think about what is the earliest inkling of AI in our lives that came up.
Yeah, I think, I mean, then maybe it's more really about my solopreneur journey, because then my degree it was more really about like data and models, and now with Level Up with AI and on Substack, it's really more like how do you use that in your everyday life, and I feel like that's maybe more what you're trying to get at. And I think one of the first things I used it for, where I really was like, oh my god, this is so helpful, is for image generation, right? Because I've always struggled with, and like for brand creation, because I'm not a very artsy person and not very like, I don't know, I don't have an eye for the brand. And I remembered when I had my first brainstorming session with Claude, I was like, okay, I need to define my brand better. And what does that even mean? When I started on Substack, everybody said like, yeah, you have to find your voice and put that out there, right? And I was like, what does that mean? What does it mean to find your voice? Is that what, And I think all those things really helped me then. So brainstorming, defining your brand, and then also really going into the image generation with AI. I think those were like the first milestones where it was like, oh my God, this really saves hours.
Yeah, I think for me personally, that the first time I started seeing more of this was because I became a digital influencer across multiple channels. People
Mm.
often said, Bobby, how are you everywhere all the time? And
Hmm.
one of the things that I started realizing was I was using software and tools to automate things. So I was using things like If This Then That and Buffer and Hootsuite and a bunch of other programs to help me meet Edgar's another one. So I was basically using all these things that would then extract, put things out there,
Yeah,
and they're like, wow, like when you do like if this then that was great, because when I would do an Instagram post, that image would then be shared right away to Twitter with the post caption, or when I upload
hmm,
a YouTube video, it would automatically go to my Facebook page and my LinkedIn page. So this is where I was looking at automation, and I was doing a lot of that in the beginning, and,
yeah,
and that's where I realized, you know what, if there's automation here that can do this. Now I had to set that up, but once it was set
yeah,
up, it was doing these things for me. And this is like, wow, okay, Bobby's everywhere. How? Because I'd set it up. And that
yeah,
that was kind of my first inkling of, what automated technology could do for me. And
yeah.
so then, for me, I'll tell you that the first time I really started getting into, I guess, the current AI
Hmm.
was ChatGPT, only because, well, actually, that's before that it wasn't ChatGPT. Actually, before that, when AI started coming, I'd say like 2-3 years ago, more people were starting getting into AI, and there was all these programs and softwares with grandfathered tools and all these things.
Hmm.
Hey, invest in this and get a super discount or lifetime whatever. So I basically spent, I'm not sure, I spent several $1,000s on about a dozen of these things.
Yeah,
One for Twitter, one for Instagram, one for my newsletter, one for videos. I got everything. And then what
yeah,
happened was, after about another year went by, the AI got more sophisticated, because I knew that was going to happen, or at least I felt that was going to happen. I
yeah.
thought it was going to happen. And then what happened after that? After the first year, I was like, okay, you know what? Here are the 5 that I really want to have, and the other ones I
Hmm.
don't need. So I canceled those. I kept the other 5, and I started just using those. And that was kind of my initial way of using it, I guess, as a business owner.
Hmm.
So I think, a question I'll ask you is, for business
Yes.
owners, because business owners, some of them are beginners and some of them are, more advanced. But for someone who's beginning, they're intimidated by AI. So, what would you say is a good starting point for them?
Yeah. Before I get into that,
Yeah.
actually, your story inspired me to also share something else
Okay. I
because
love
that,
that.
yeah, yeah, because I actually have a good example of how I started using
Okay.
AI,
Great.
which is something. Because so I started from zero on Substack 2 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
really, like I don't know, like I didn't have any other social media presence, I didn't have any newsletter, nothing. Um, but I grew quite quickly. And I think I grew because I also made it very personal and I made the touch points very personal. And I wrote every new subscriber a direct message welcoming them. And that was all manually. But at some point, I got like more than 100 new subscribers a day. And I was like, okay, I can't keep up with this.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, you didn't have the AI skills to build it yet yourself. Like it was like this is how fast we're moving.
Mm.
But so I remember I went to Upwork and I asked some developers to build me this Chrome extension, and it was a pain in the ass because they didn't know Substack. They had to figure things out. It was super expensive, and I knew back then because that was with my community that was all about Substack and growing on Substack, and I wanted to always build also something like a Substack notes scheduler, because back then you also didn't have this
Right.
Substack notes to schedule. But all those developers, they were like, "Oh, this is so hard, and it will cost at least $10,000." And I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then last year, I was like, "Okay, AI is now so far that you can really build a lot of things on your own." And so instead of going to a developer spending 10,000 euros, I basically built this software tool myself, right? And now I
Wow.
have this, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's wow, but it's
That's
really like that.
amazing.
Yeah, but it allows you to do things now, just because everybody can talk and configure things, and yeah, so I've built it. I saved a lot of money, a lot of hassle, because that's the cool thing. You know your audience the best, and you know kind of what product design things and features it needs, right? And now instead of having this intermediate person that you need to explain this to, and then they need to write it in code, you can skip this step and just do it yourself with AI. And I think that's very cool, actually.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. In fact, I'm also doing that now because I was beginner, but now I'd say I'm intermediate plus. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like to me I always say, and this is, let me just say, and we'll get back to the question again because I want to ask you again.
Yes.
For me, I tell people, look, is AI? Do we need to do AI? I'm like, look, when internet first came, and I remember that. It was like, look, you either get on board and figure this out, or you're going to be left behind. And so I was a very early adopter of the internet. When social media came, I went on board and grew my presence because I was like, this is definitely here to stay. I felt it. And AI to
Yeah.
me is the third piece. Like, this is something you have to know. So like initially, I got up and started walking and looking around. I got on a bike,
Mm-hmm.
started traveling a little bit faster. A lot of people, the experts were flying jet planes and going very fast, but I'm riding a bicycle, and the people who are just sitting there are now hundreds of miles behind me because
Mm-hmm.
I got up and do it. So it's important for you to get up and start walking. Now that I'm more advanced, I'm riding a motorcycle. I'm humming along, and it's really exciting. And I think everybody
Yeah.
here should get up, start looking
Yeah.
around, start walking, find a
Yeah.
friend, walk along, do a couple of things, right? So let's assume everyone here is listening in. You've decided to stand up and start walking. You find a buddy, two buddies, and you start co-working together. So this
Yeah.
segues back nicely to the question, which is, what are some of the first things these beginner business owners can do to leverage AI well?
Yeah. I mean, I think it always starts, and there AI can only help you to a certain degree, but you have to know what you want to do with it, I mean, theoretically you can do anything. You can
Right.
build software products, you can, design things, etc. But I really think it starts with um, know what you want to do. I mean, I had a session also this week about it. On Substack, for example, because there are a lot of newsletter writers, like know your offer first, right? Like I don't know, if you are a small business owner who's writing a book and they want to sell their book on Substack, but don't want to put that out yet there, think about what other product you can offer for people to grow your audience and to monetize it early on, right? So really be clear about that. And if you have already a running business and you have your offer defined, I think then it really starts with a very simple step that you should ask, like, what's one thing, what's one workflow that takes you a lot of manual time, and start with that, and start with seeing how you could automate it. So I've been working with a client here. It's a hospital, and they are also like, oh, we have so many little things here and there
Yeah.
that we would like to automate with AI. But one thing I tell them is, think about, if you're at that step, think about your AI strategy also, right? Because what I see happening now is that people just randomly build here a tool, there a tool, like everything gets scattered. It's like a similar setup of when Excel came out, and suddenly everybody had like 1,000 different Excel worksheets up, right? So have an idea if you're a business owner of your AI strategy, have a map of how it all fits together. And there I would say, don't just start randomly creating all your products, but really make up your mind about it first.
Yeah, and I want to comment on the fact that you mentioned something that I'm very passionate about, was whether you're working on AI, or you're building on Substack, or you're building on LinkedIn, or you're trying to get a TEDx talk or build your speaking career. What exactly is your personal brand, and what is your objective? Because having that focus and clarity is incredibly important. And having that
Yeah.
one thing is good. Like for me, my focus on Substack is to help small business owners grow their business. And so that
Mm-hmm.
everything I do is around that, whether you become a fee subscriber, paid subscriber, or you join my membership community. So that's what it is. And I think it's important to have that as a starting point. And then the other advice
Yeah.
I would give for the beginners is like, look, your business, there's a lot of stuff going on in business. So
Mm-hmm.
what is that one thing, that one kind of process or thing or task you're like, ugh, I gotta do
Yeah.
this. That would be a great starting point about how can I get AI to help me. And I'll tell you one of my first stories that for me, my biggest was accounting, taxes. I just like, I absolutely hate that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I was like, can you help me with this?
Hmm.
It said, yeah, sure. Like, are you comfortable sharing your sensitive information? Yeah, look, I'll send you some PDFs. Let's set up some securities tools here, and just analyze this. And so it took
Yeah.
all my PDFs, analyzed it. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
And so I think of that like thing you have to do, and do
Yeah.
that one, work on that
Yeah.
one thing. Don't work on everything. Like you'll eventually get
Yeah.
there, but in the beginning, start with that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good example. I've also done my taxes with it. And actually, you can also, it's so nice because, especially on Substack, I have like three different newsletters and it's all gets messy, but you can connect your AI. In my case, it was Claude, like with my Stripe account, and it would just take
Right.
all the information it needs right away from Stripe. And it was like, oh, this is so. And actually, I realized afterwards that Stripe does offer a service for that where they charge you like, I don't know, $50 a month. And I was like, I
No,
don't need that.
don't need that.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's great.
So
And then you mentioned Claude. I mean, I think, and again, everyone's listening here, guys. If you have questions or comments, put them in there because look, we're two AI nerds and business owners that want to talk about all, because there's so, like, I mean, I can tell you this right now, like the reason I'm so excited about this topic is because even though I mentioned my story. I got into the initial stuff. Then I got those five, programs, softwares I was using. Then I got into ChatGPT, invested in that. And then I switched over to Claude, and now I've advanced it into Claude Code, VS Code, and I'm like that's what I'm riding a
yeah.
motorcycle. And
Yeah.
so I'm totally like crushing on all this. There's all this information that I want to share with people. But again, I
Yeah.
understand people are at the very beginning, so I think that's fine. You did mention Claude. I guess the question's on my mind. And again, guys, ask questions please in the chat. But what I would say is that the question became, choosing Claude, choosing ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever you want to do. I mean, I know some people who do like five of them, which I think is personally crazy. But I want to get your take on that. I mean, choosing one in a sub, choosing five. How do you choose? Like, what's your take on this?
I mean, honestly, I think if you have a running system, if it works well, if you use one, two, or three AIs, then you're good, then don't go crazy about it. I do think you could probably save money if you just go with one and make that kind of your center. But if somebody says like, hey, they use Claude Code for their newsletter setup, and then they use ChatGPT for like personal things, I mean, totally fine. Then you don't have it intermixed. You have two different setups. I think it really depends on kind of what you want, and yeah, I think
Okay.
it's fine either way. What's your take on it?
Well, I think that it's very similar to my take on social media strategy, which is a lot of people say just go all in on one platform. I actually disagree with that. I think you should have one primary and then
Mm-hmm.
at least one secondary. So the primary one is where you have your main stuff. Now, for me, it has been LinkedIn for the last like 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That may change. It may become Substack, and then
Mm-hmm.
Substack, Instagram, and Twitter are my secondaries where I repurpose the content that I put over there and I put it here.
Yeah.
What I'm finding, there's a shift for me that Substack's now starting to take over a little bit. And so I might shift that because previously to LinkedIn, my primary was Twitter before Twitter became
Yeah.
a crazy, crazy place. And so similarly for AI, I mean, I think that having a primary is a good thing. And then
Mm.
having a secondary for various things. So for example, when I'm doing, like, I know Claude Design came out. Claude is like, ChatGPT is my primary, and then the other ones are my secondary. What happened was Claude became my secondary for writing emails. I found it better. And so I started switching. And then pretty soon there was this whole big thing about Claude versus ChatGPT. And I was like, you know what? And I tried it. I tested it on some of the stuff I already had in ChatGPT. I was like, this is better.
Mm.
I'm going to make the switch. So I downloaded all my ChatGPT stuff. I integrated it all into Claude. And so now
Yeah.
I'm 90% Claude and 10% ChatGPT. ChatGPT mostly for codecs and image creation,
Mhm.
carousel posts, things like that. I
Yeah.
find it really better. Claude Design's good. I still like the codecs a little bit better. So that's my
Yeah.
take, to have a primary and a secondary. I don't think you need to have five, to be honest. And as you said, investing in that one, I think, is really, really important. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that comes up is, I tell people, depending on their business, especially if you're a business owner, and you have a website and a content strategy, and let's say you're on on Substack, for example, uh, I'm actually recommending Claude versus ChatGPT. I just find the writing more intuitive. I think it's better to
Mhm.
align with your brand voice. And so when that whole big decision of, oh, do I switch from ChatGPT to Claude, or what do I do? I tested it, I tried it, I find it significantly better. So I now am recommending the switch.
Yeah.
Um, for you, you never did ChatGPT. You were just always on Claude.
No, I did actually, with my startup, we created a ChatGPT account, but yeah, then we actually did switch to Claude in the end because we felt like the reasoning and so on, like all the thinking was better in Claude, but also ChatGPT caught up again. So I don't know. I personally always thought like for writing, I prefer Claude, but yeah. Then for image creation, I use Gemini. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I think with them all like developing all the time, I think the differences are, at least I feel like for the use the everyday person has, it's fair enough. I think if you start creating AI models yourself or whatever, there might be like differences for sure. But I think for how most people use it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No, understood. Totally get that. So that's great.
Mm.
So I see people are getting into this stuff. Yeah, yeah. I also pit Claude and ChatGPT against each other because they can find things that the other had not. If it's something really important, I ask them, hey, I just analyze it. What do you think? And they find something. Oh, that's a good idea. And they're going back and forth.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have a question for you actually, which is, my only, I've done a little bit of this, but what do you do to temper the, uh, I'm going to call it the positive energy bias of AI?
Mm. Yeah. Um, First of all, be aware of it. I think that's like the number one thing. Like the other day, I worked with a client and she told me like, like that she always needs to correct the AI. And then the AI is like, oh my God, you're right. And she
Right.
was like, yeah, but I should have known before. I was like, no, 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 wait. there's like AI will always agree with you. So whatever you tell it, it's going to be like, oh my God, yeah. And so I think to really just be aware of this is the number one thing to do. Um, so yeah, and then just really tell it to challenge you, to not always agree with you, be very explicit in that. Let it go out there and do research. I think like that's also important. Like don't just make it based on what you input. And then try to input it as a I mean, there I do think actually the other day, yesterday, I worked with Fable
Hmm.
on Claude, and I think that's one of the strongest models out there right now. And it actually had the audacity to disagree with me without me telling it, and
Great.
I was yeah, and I was very surprised, but I loved it. I was like, wait, that's a first. I don't think that has ever happened before. So
Wow.
I also think it's changing again, and the models they do learn.
And speaking of Fable, and again, part of the discussion today is about hacks. So, like, later on, Claudia, if you have any hacks you want to give, I'll give you a hack right now, guys, which is Fable is now free with your paid plans. And so, what you should do, and I'll tell you what I did. I got ChatGPT to create a very comprehensive prompt to
Mhm.
analyze my entire system on LinkedIn, my system on Substack, my personal health wellness system, and my operating system that I have built with Claude and VS Code. And I asked it to analyze it in great detail and make sure we could find gaps. And I then plugged that into Fable to then come up with a comprehensive plan to then fix. And once I had that, because I used the credits of Fable, and then basically it does a deep dive, and then you can execute using Sonnet or Opus, and that's fine. But that's what I did. I think for everyone else, that's just a hack I would share with you because Fable
Yeah.
is currently free until Sunday. So take advantage of it, guys, and let it
Mhm.
plan and analyze to death all your shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, part of my language, but yeah,
Yeah, just be careful because it will use a lot of your tokens. So
yeah,
if you're not on the max plan,
yeah.
like you may run out fairly quickly. But give it a try with a small task first and see, like how you like it.
Yeah. And I see some questions here, guys. Palumi says, I am buzzing right now. Okay. I really enjoy this live. Okay, good. Question. I'm just starting on Substack. I've created a couple of posts based on projects I'm bundling. My challenge is how do I automate my projects that when I am done building them, I want my Claude code to create the article for me, post on Substack for me, and basically just automate the whole process, even when I'm asleep. But I've yet to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, possible. um, Actually, Substack just this week started an MCP connection with your AI of choice. So you can now connect your AI. I think so far it might only be available for bestsellers on Substack,
Okay.
but they are making a step in that direction. At the moment, you can't automate it as you described it, Pilumi, but you can at least already connect it to get all your data, and you can ask questions and be like, hey, what's my opening rate from all the posts I've had? Where do my subscribers come from? And all those things, which is already cool because before that didn't exist. And then in terms of automation, I mean, what you can do is you can create a connection between your Claude Code and Substack. I've let it run, like you create an MCP connection, and then you can let it run and interact with your Substack. I My system is that I still edit the drafts manually, and then you can, post it, or you schedule it. So I haven't automated that step. I'm still putting things in by hand, but you could already do it and just let it click through everything, and it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is that Substack doesn't have the API, and so it's hard for us to connect with it. So what I do is, when I create posts, I can automate across everything: LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, for the most part, everything, but not on Substack. So I get my Cloud Code to give me the image and the post that I then copy paste and I put it in. There was a tool called WriteStack that was allowing you to schedule notes, and that was
Mm.
an interesting tool. But then all of a sudden, next thing you know, Substack came out with scheduled notes, and so
Yeah,
immediately. However, that is a pretty good system because you can populate up to like 100 different notes in advance, which is something I can't do right now. I have to do them manually. Like I create them, but then I manually post them. So, but yeah, the MCP is kind of exciting. I'm glad to hear that that's happening. If it's
yeah,
just for the people with lots of paid subscribers, then I'll guess I'll have to wait. But but no, that's good. I hope Substack.
yeah,
Do you have foresee Substack allowing API and like all the other platforms? Because right now it's the only one that doesn't allow.
yeah.
LinkedIn has some limitations too, but you can still do things on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, you can. So on the note scheduling thing, that's why. So now you can schedule notes through Substack one by one. But the note scheduler that I created, you can just like create a CSV file,
Wow.
you batch upload it, and then you're out of that problem. So that helps. And for the MCP thing, yeah. So I do. So it doesn't have an API. That's true. But as more and more AI people actually start creating it on their own, because you can create this MCP connection that is not official, but you can you can work with browser with cloud in your browser, right? And it clicks for you, so it can create already automatically a draft. It can put in this thing, so you can work on it. It's not like the official API way, but it's possible. And I do think Substack will go there. I think this MCP thing that they just launched is the first step
Right.
towards it. So yeah, I think they're on the right way, but it will take them a while for this all to happen for sure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. There's another question by Stephanie here. I'm brand new to Claude, so forgive my ignorance. It's okay. You decide to step up and start walking. We love that. But right now, my struggle with Claude is I've been in ChatGPT and it knows me so well. And what I notice in Claude is it doesn't remember tasks, conversations the same way Chat does.
Hmm. I mean, that's a little bit what you've described before when you made the switch. No, maybe
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah,
share.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say to that, Stephanie, is that you have to train it each time. So what I did with Claude or sorry, ChatGPT in the day was I trained it to know who I was. When I decided to go all in Claude, I actually the first thing I did on Claude was I said number one, I want to set up a chief of staff, which basically knows me, my business, how I work, that I'm ADHD, my personality, and we set that up. Then the second thing I set up was what I call the Bobby brand voice. It interviewed me with 100 questions, asking me about myself, my life, how I live, what my values are, and how I like to speak. And we created the Bobby brand voice. Once we had those two things, then I said, now let's import ChatGPT. You download all of ChatGPT. And the reason I did that first is because I didn't want to taint Claude with my ChatGPT, which wasn't exactly accurate in my book. So I actually built the Claude setup knowing who I was. Then once it knew the protocols of who I was, then I said, let's import all of ChatGPT, the knowledge base, see what's relevant, see what makes sense, and it can integrate it into your system, and it'll ask you whether this makes sense or not makes sense. And so when you have that, now you're going to have something that's very sophisticated and way better for you. That's my take. Is that fair?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think sometimes it does matter on your Claude which model you're on and which effort. So I'm working with a client who actually has a similar problem, and she, because she wants to save her tokens, uses a lot like the model in like minimum effort, so it makes it less smart to repoll everything that it has been given. It also doesn't save all the instructions in like separate files or in the master file. So sometimes I think it does make sense to say like, hey, if it's something groundbreaking, like you have a voice profile that you wanted to learn your voice, for example, that you say like, hey, from everything we've talked about today, let's create like a voice profile MD file, so you can actually save it and get back to it the next time. So I do think that if that doesn't happen automatically on your Claude setup, then it's worthwhile to tell it to do that.
No, I love that. Thanks, Claudia. And let me get into more of a hack. So, like, is there any maybe can you share with us? And I'll try to do the same thing. Maybe your top three hacks that are great with AI and business owners. I'd love to see where we can go with this discussion.
Oh, yeah. One hack is to look for skills that are either free or paid, but there are amazing skills out there on GitHub, but you could also find them on Substack. There are a lot of great AI writers also on Substack. And those are basically little packages that you could connect to or download and use in your setup, right? Like there are a lot of Claude skills, for example. I use one that is called Humanizer. It's also from GitHub. You just download it and you can use it for free. And it really, like, I had my Claude code like trained on my posts, on my voice. I have anti-AI rules in there, but this humanizer skill brought it again to the next level. And now it sounds again more like just a human talking and not an AI. So watch out for those skills that are out there. I do think that that's a part of AI that's going to be bigger and bigger, a little bit like an app store, where you have like all the apps. Like we're going to get more into skills and skills, I think.
Okay. Sorry. That's the one hack. Do you have any other ones or the?
Um, Maybe you go next while I think
Sure,
about another
sure.
one.
I mean, you talked about MCP. I think some people don't know what that really means, so I want to make sure people know. Like, so you can connect your Claude, so there's Claude and there's Claude Code. So my hack is, look, start with Claude Chat, get to know it a little bit better. You can build a project in there, and that's totally cool. Then you can try a little bit of Claude Cowork to see what it can implement for you. Because the first thing Claude Cowork did for me, it organized my entire laptop files. I was like, wow, that's amazing, because that would take me months, and it did it in like one day. But then once you feel comfortable, then you jump to Claude Code. So my hack would be to just go step by step to be comfortable before you get to the next level. I think that to me is something you should really consider as you're trying to build up your system. But once you get into coding, it's actually quite amazing what it can do, and be very, very specific about that. And then I think the other thing, the hack is, like, once you start understanding how MCPs work, or you use a tool like Composio, because what it does is it takes your Claude code and it basically connects all your stuff. So and Claudia mentioned skills. So I have a morning session, a morning briefing skill, right? And what it does is it reads my Gmail, it reads my Google Calendar, it looks at my Stripe account, it looks at my Facebook ads, it looks at all these things that I've created in my content, and it comes with what are the top 3 priorities for today. And I set that up using MCPs and Composio in a very, very easy way. So I think that's my hack.
Yeah. I think that's also a good one. I mean, another one that I use also, I don't know if it's a hack, but it's just the way maybe I use AI,
Sure.
is to really make sure that you use or that you research all the best practices out there. I mean, I realized on my Substack that people really want to know how they can just simply monetize it more. Because I get a lot of time people like asking me, hey, how do I make money with AI, right? And that's a difficult question to answer because it depends on so many things. But I think it comes down to, if you have specific knowledge and you're in a niche, AI can help you to amplify, to package this right, and you can, yeah, just basically create this great offer, and then you need to sell it. And so what I've done is I looked through all the last 10 years of best sales email techniques from all the best people out there. I summarized all of it. I created a mega sales prompt, and now I'm actually, you can find that also on my homepage. So really make use of information that is out there, and then start making it fit your personal situation, right? If you want to sell something, then something like this makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
maybe
No,
a way to use it.
and I think the conversation on monetization for business owners is incredibly important. I talk about that too, because every time I talk to business owners, I say, okay, how do you monetize your business? And they're like, oh, I put social media out there. Like, that's not monetization. How
Yeah.
do you get sales? Oh, I post. Like,
Mm,
you have to have a clear funnel that
yeah.
gets people from A to B to C. And if you don't
Yeah.
have that, and again, a big part of this to me is messaging. You have to get people into DMs, into emails, to text messages, WhatsApp messages, get them to talk to you so that
Yeah.
eventually they get on a call with you. And so it's
Yeah.
really important if you're going to monetize, have that system. Most people are too afraid to do with DMs. They think it's intrusive. I'm like, look, if you have something out there, like if they subscribe to your lead magnet, you now can talk to them via email. If
Yeah.
they join your group chat, you can start messaging them. So like it's very important to be able to do that, and you want to get them on a call. And a lot of people don't know how to do sales and how to close. Mostly because going back to your point about personal brand focus, they have
Mm.
6 things they're selling. What's the one thing you're trying to do? Right? Like
Yeah.
for me, Substack, I want people to obviously become subscribers, but then join my second tier, which is the paid subscription, and then eventually they can join my membership community. That's it. It's just it's a 3-pronged approach. That's all I'm
Yeah.
doing, and so I think monetization is incredibly important. So I want to address that because I think it's
Hmm.
important. And
Yeah.
actually, since you are here, I have a couple of questions for you. One question I have is, what is your AI, I guess, process strategy for videos? I mean, because like obviously Substack will create videos of this. It only creates like 4 clips. It's nothing too significant. But I was using Opus Clip. I take the live stream and I put it in there and I dump stuff. But I was curious to hear your strategy for using AI for getting good video clips.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, I'm not on YouTube or anything else. So I am really just on Substack, and I just live on the clips. But actually, I don't know if they've changed it, but I get like 20 to 30 clips out of a video. Maybe it depends on the length, but I think a 45-minute video should give you around 20
Oh.
clips or so.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm doing
And
something
now it's
wrong then. Or maybe I'm saying really dumb things. That's probably it. Bobby, you're too dumb. There's only 4 clips for you.
Oh, no, and also, but I think they changed that. I think now, like, I don't know, but you said you've been doing it weekly, but now maybe it's completely
Only
new.
for
I
a
don't know.
month. I've only been doing weekly for a month, so I'm
Okay,
getting there.
okay, yeah. So I think they do it well, and also now you can create your own clips on Substack Lives. So
Hmm.
yeah, so far I've been happy with that. But again, like, I'm not a very
Okay.
crazy about videos. So.
Okay. No problem. I just wanted to ask. And then I see another question here. But before I get to her question, I'm going to ask my second question, which
Uh-huh.
is, look, you're doing well on Substack, and I think a lot of people could learn from that. So, can you share some ideas on if things start to grow really well for you? And the fact that you even developed your own tool to do schedule notes, that's amazing. I probably should go figure that out myself. Or you can sell that and some of us will buy it. But, can you give us some tips on how best to grow better on Substack? I will tell you my thing. I have trouble getting the free subscribers to become paid subscribers. So can you just talk a bit about that? Like, what's the way to make that happen? And how can
Yeah.
AI help?
Yeah, for sure. The note scheduler is part of my paid subscription,
Okay.
either on Level Up with AI or Wonderwell. So
Okay.
if you're interested, yeah. But I also want to say you can build it yourself. I think it's many things. But if you're into AI a little bit, it's not rocket science, so you can also do it yourself. Um, but it takes a bit because you need to connect. Well, anyway, so your question was how to convert, right? Like on
Yeah,
Substack.
the two things is how to convert better on Substack for people to become more paid subscribers, and secondly, how can we use AI to help us with Substack?
Yeah. The first one I would say, and that's actually also I would say my third hack. You can automate everything on Substack, but Substack still, and it might change, but it still values a lot authenticity and connecting to people. The more you just write out AI notes and AI posts and people cannot really create this connection with you, the harder it is for you to grow your free subscribers, but also convert.
Right.
So I think like doing those live sessions, letting people see that you're real, letting them, like they hear you, they see you. I think that's a big part of it. And I think that would be one of my answers. And then the second is create this connection with people. So the welcome email after somebody subscribes is a big part. You can, and again, I think so far it's only for bestsellers, but Substack started something like email automations. So you can do like free subscriber automations and then paid or whatever. You can like also differentiate more and more where they get a sequence of you right once they sign up. So I think those things will help you. Really, again, if you want to make it a business, then have that business mindset in mind. And if somebody is annoyed by the emails they will get from you, you can make it all about value that you deliver, right? But you want to be in people's mind, you want to be connected to them, and an email automation sequence does make a lot of sense. For those of you who don't have it yet in Substack, you can you can connect your Gmail to Kit, for example, and there, every time you get a new subscriber, free or paid, you can put them into a funnel on Kit, which brings them outside of Substack. So but it is an email system where then you can sequence and just get this automation started.
And I do a similar thing where I connect Zapier and Go High Level to my emailer. So when people subscribe, I can send them emails. So that's certainly something that I would do as well. So thanks for that. Bonnie's got a question here. I noticed every time there's an update in Claude, it seems to forget previous conversations that has anyone else come across this? And if so, is there something in settings I should change?
So, I personally have not come across this. It hasn't happened to me, to be honest.
Well, I mean, here's what comes to my mind. Having so if you do set up Claude, I mean, you have to setting up Claude. So I've set up Claude where I have what I call the Bobby OS operating system, and it's on my OneDrive. And I've trained Claude to do a morning briefing, and a session close where it wraps everything up and it captures everything within that online tool. So what happens is it has access to everything on the Bobby OS system. It also captures everything beginning to end, and that way I don't lose anything. The next day it remembers everything because it's been trained to do that. So I think if you set up that kind of system, then I think you're going to be better off. And from a hack standpoint, going to another hack, when I added VS Code to my Claude coding, it definitely was a game changer for me. Way more sophisticated, way more intuitive, and it basically showed me step by step how to do these things. And now I've set that up, and what's great, and now it lives online because you want to have something that lives on that you own. And it can always reference, and that's what it has now. So that's what I've done, and I think that's something you could do.
Yeah. Yeah, also, I think it also is related to the previous point, like that it forgets. Try to make sure that you save like important things in MD files or in, so it has the structure that it can reference again to next time. I think that is important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, we've been here for a little bit. Stephanie asked, "Where can I find this live to rewatch?" Well, it'll just be on Substack, guys. So, take a look. You just follow Claudia and myself, and you can see what we're up to. As we're kind of gearing to the end, is there anything, Claudia, you want to talk about? Like, what are you working on? What are you excited about? How can people follow you and support you? That's what I'd love to learn.
Yeah, I mean, my publication is Level Up with AI. I've been doing a lot of rework recently on it to make it more exciting. I started to really put all my AI daily workflows as in skills out there. So now that's part of my membership, which I haven't done before. But I thought like, hey, I use this every day. I do think people would find it useful. So that's new. And other than that, I just want to tell people to, if you're here, you're already part of the top percent of people being interested in AI, learning with AI. I think it's fantastic that everybody is here. You're already on the top percentile. And if you continue, I'm 100% sure it's just going to give you a great competitive advantage. So kudos to all of you.
That's awesome. And for everyone else, if you are wanting to learn about how to build your business, how to overcome the proper mindsets, how to do better with sales and digital marketing and things like that, that's what I'm all about. If you go to my paid tier, you're going to get a whole bunch of different step-by-step processes for all these different things that are going to help you out. And then, of course, further to that, if you really want to become part of my TLB Club membership community, that's tier 3. And Substack has a special deal where you can get access to me for 6 months. And basically, we have weekly calls. We have monthly tech calls. We have a weekly cloud co-working session. We have a monthly LinkedIn clinic. In fact, I have a LinkedIn clinic later today at 2 p.m. If you want to come by as my guest, just DM me and I'll get you the link to come to that. It's typically for members only, but I'm there to support people on a regular basis to help them grow their business, challenge them, make them accountable. And, most business owners I know struggle with sales, struggle with monetization, but you also struggle by you hit a ceiling, whether you're part-timer, side hustling, and you hit 40K per year, or you're full-time, you hit 120K per year, and you can't seem to get past that. I'm here to help you get past that thing and, get to that next level. So that's kind of what I focus on. So this live stream will be available for everybody to see, and make sure you check out Claudia. And Claudia, I want to thank you for coming by today. We just met. We were talking back and forth, but we just met. Very delighted to meet you. And I love seeing what you're up to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.